Hello everyone! In this lesson we're going to learn about broadcasting in Laravel. Let's jump right into the action. So first of all, we need to ask the question, what in the world does broadcasting even mean? And to give you a real-world example, if we just think about our chat room feature, well, when one user sends a chat, we need to distribute or broadcast that message to any and all connected users, right? Imagine if there's 100 users connected to our chat room. Well, one user just sends their message to the server once, and then it's up to the server to broadcast and push out that message to everyone else. So by broadcasting, here's what we mean. Typically, when you visit a website, you are pulling something from the server, right? You as a visitor, you're sending a request to the server, and then anytime when you want fresh data, you refresh the page or you pull in new data. Well, in this case though, we want the server to be able to push something new to the user in real time, right? Without a new page reload. The server should just be able to send fresh data on the fly. The server should be able to initiate new data being sent or pushed to the user. Now, the good news is that Laravel does support broadcasting, but the complicated or bad news is that due to the nature of PHP, it's not super easy to get real-time communication like that set up in a PHP environment. In other words, if we were using something like Node.js, it would be really easy to just install the socket.io package because Node is a real-time, right, ongoing process. PHP doesn't work like that. A web server runs a PHP script, and then until you send in a new request, PHP isn't actively up and doing anything. So in other words, establishing a socket ongoing connection can be a bit trickier in the world of PHP. This is why if you visit the official Laravel documentation for broadcasting, Laravel lets you know that by default, the two drivers that they support out of the box to enable broadcasting are two technologies. One's called Pusher, or I should say services. One's called Pusher and another is called Ably. So these are third-party commercial products, and you can sign up for free to use them, and that's what's going to allow this real-time or socket connection. However, all hope is not lost if you don't want to use a commercial product. Now, I will say in this course, we're just going to use the totally free plan that Pusher offers. That's what I recommend. But if you wanted to go the extra mile, there is a free and open source, community-driven, self-hosted way to have an ongoing socket connection. So from the official Laravel docs, you can see there's Laravel WebSockets or Socket.io. I'm not going to walk through installing these because it's just, more attention to detail. It's more things that could go wrong on your exact web hosting configuration, and it's sort of missing the point. The point is that Laravel has its own broadcasting solution, and then just like we did with Laravel Scout, well, with Laravel Broadcasting, you're free to swap in and out different drivers. So here's what we're going to do in this course. I recommend a completely free Pusher account. So you can pause the video right now and visit the official pusher.com website. And we don't need to spend even a single penny. You do not need to enter a credit card. And if you click on pricing, we're interested in channels. But just go ahead and I want you to sign up for the completely free Pusher account. I'm not going to walk through the pusher.com website with you. Please go ahead and pause this lesson right now and go sign up for the free Pusher account. And then I want you to actually go into the Pusher website and create a new application. Cool. Now, once you've got your Pusher account and you've created a new application on the Pusher website, here's how we tell Laravel, if you look at the official Laravel docs, here's how we would tell Laravel that we want to use the Pusher driver to support real-time broadcasting technology. So here's what we would do. Just go into VS Code, and I need you to jump into your .env file. Okay? Now for me, it's around line 18, but you'll see there's this option called broadcast_driver equals. And now instead of equals log, let's put this to equal Pusher. So just literally, lowercase Pusher, just like this. Okay? There is one other thing you need to do. If you scroll down, for me, it's around line 46, but here we see a bunch of different Pusher values. Now, I'm not going to show you my secret values, but the idea is that if you just signed up for a free Pusher account, you should be able to, in your web browser, on the Pusher website, create a new app, and then you should be able to dig into your dashboard and find these secret values. So you would just, place your ID value here, and then place your key and your secret. In my case, I did not need to enter a host value, so just ID, key, secret, and then for this value, I do need to change this, in my case, from MT1 to instead US3. Okay, but I'm not going to show you my secret values for these three values. But I want you to go ahead and pause the video and fill these secret values in for yourself and then hit save on this env file. And then I did forget there's one more step. We need to go into our command line. You can open up a brand new command line. And we do need to install a Composer package to power Pusher. So it's just Composer require. The name of the package is pusher/pusher-php-server. So there it is, all on one line. If you need to pause the video to type this in, that's great, but just go ahead and do this with me. Just want to use Composer to install that package. So you can press enter. Okay, so now that we've connected the dots between Laravel and our free Pusher account, we have everything we need. Right? Laravel is our traditional backend, and Pusher allows for real-time socket connections so that we can actually broadcast messages out to any and all connected users. At this point, let's go set up a new route. So for example, when you actually, open up the live chat room and you type in a value and push enter, we just want an HTTP route where you can send a post request with just, a little bit of the text that you want to send. So let me show you what I would do. We know how to set up a new route. You would just go into your routes folder and go into the web.php file. And maybe down at the bottom, after these profile related routes, we could say, like comment chat route. And I would just say route : if someone sends a post request, and let's have the URL be /send-chat-message. So send chat message. Okay, and then after that comma, instead of pointing towards a controller with a method, let's just spell an anonymous function right here. So I would just say function, parentheses, curly brackets. In the parentheses, let's say, uppercase request, $request. And before we go any further, before we even get into the body of this function, let's first use middleware so that you must be logged in to even send a request to this route. So at the end here, before the semicolon, I would just say -- call middleware, and the name would be, must be logged in. Cool. Now in the body of this function, let's just set up a bit of validation. So in the body of our function, I would just say, $form fields equals, and then just $request, call the validate method. In there, give it an array, and we just have one field that's mandatory. Let's call it text value, right? Like whatever chat message they're trying to type, whether that's hi, hey, hello, or whatever it may be. But we're just saying that that's required. If they don't provide that, then we don't want to move forward with this request at all. Okay? After that, but still in that same function, I would probably trim any empty white space before or after that value. So I'd say if, parentheses, curly brackets, for the condition if the opposite of trim. And then I would also strip out any tags. So strip tags. And then in there, I would just look for form fields, look inside the array for text value. And then if this is true, that means they did not provide any valid text. So I would just return, and then I would call the global response function, and then look inside that and call no content. Otherwise, so below that right here, this is where we would actually want to broadcast their event, right? So assuming if they actually did type in something other than just empty spaces and characters that are not allowed that would get stripped out, assuming they actually typed something valid, so there's actually something to push through, like, hey, hello, we would want to broadcast that to any and all connected users. So we would just say broadcast. There's a global function available in Laravel, broadcast, call it just like this. And now in these parentheses, we're going to give it a new instance of an event. However, you and I have not created our event yet, so let's do that right now. So open up your command line and type this in with me. PHP artisan make :event, and then let's make up a name. Let's call it chat message. So that's the name of our event. Go ahead and press enter. This is a little bit different from how we created an event in the last lesson because we actually don't need a listener this time around. Don't worry, I'll explain. But as soon as you run that command, you'll notice that in your app folder, in events, there's this brand new file named chatmessage.php. Now, back in our file of web.php, here's what we would do. Inside these parentheses for broadcast, we would say, hey, we just want a new instance of the chat message event. So parentheses to call that. And now we do need to right click on chat message and choose import class. Cool. Up at the top, you can see that just pulled in our event that we just created. Now, here's the important part. When we're broadcasting a new instance of our chat message event, we need to give it all the data that we would need. So here's what I would do. In these parentheses here, give it an array, and I'm just making up these property names, but we would need to know the username of who's sending the message. So equals greater than, and then I would just call the auth function, look inside that, call the user function, look inside that for username, comma, and then I would say quotes text value equals greater than, and this would be whatever they're actually sending, like, hey, hello. So I would just call strip tags, and then inside that, I would look for $request, look inside that for text value. After those parentheses, I would say comma, I want one more property in this array, and I want a property of avatar. So that would equal, and for the value, it would just be, call the auth function, and then call the user function, and look inside that for the avatar property. Now at the very end of that line, before the semicolon though, so right where my cursor is now, if you think about this, we called broadcast. So that's the context of, the parentheses that's ending right here. We're saying broadcast, and then we're going to call a method of dash greater than to others. We're calling a method of to others. So in other words, we're broadcasting a new instance of a chat message event to others, to everyone else. Okay, and then below that line, finally, I would just return and then call response, look inside that for no content. This is useful when you don't even want to bother responding with like a value of true, or a 200 success message. You can just respond with nothing. Let's go ahead and save this file. So now when someone sends a post request to this route, that's going to open up a new instance of our chat message event. So now let's dig into that file to figure out what should happen. Now think about it. We did not set up a listener for this event. We actually don't need a listener. Instead, we just want this event to be broadcasted. So here's what we do. First of all, let's import something called should broadcast now. So you can see we already have something called should broadcast. I'm just going to duplicate this line, and on the additional copy, let's put should broadcast. So I'm just adding the word now. Should broadcast now. And then on this opening class line where we see class chat message, I'm going to say implements should broadcast now. Okay, now let's scroll down a little bit, and we're looking for the construct function. So in these parentheses, this is the incoming data for the event. So this would, that's going to have the username, the avatar value, and whatever text message they're actually trying to send. So let's say $, I'm just going to call it chat. And then I just want to store that on this object that's being created. So, $, this, look inside it. Let's make up a property of chat. And I'm actually going to have that equal an array with multiple properties inside it. So one property would be username, and that's going to equal, $chat, look inside that for a username, comma, I also want a property of avatar and set that to equal, $chat, look inside that for avatar, comma, I want a value of text value, and that's just going to be inside $chat in the array, look for text value. Be sure to end that line with a semicolon. And now back at the start of that line, right above our construct function, so right below this line where we see use dispatchable and interact with sockets, right below that, so right about here, let's be sure to say public $chat. This way, we're making sure that our construct function is actually accessing the incoming values in question. So just public $chat. Okay, and then down at the very bottom of this file, we see this function called broadcast on. So this is where we get to choose a channel name. I'll show you where channels come into play in just a moment, but for channel name here in these quotes, let's make up a name. Let's call it chat channel, just like this. I'm just making this up. Let's go ahead and save that. And now for one of our final steps, we need to set up a channel. So when you make a channel private, you just need to tell Laravel who should have permission to actually connect to this channel. If it was a public or regular channel instead of a private channel, anyone could connect to it. Since it's a private channel, let me show you what we do. You just go into your routes folder, and instead of web.php, there's a file called channels.php. Just going to go into that file, and we're just going to set up a new channel. So let's say broadcast. I'm just copying the syntax of what's already here, but broadcast : channel. And we made up a name of chat channel, so make sure your name matches here, but then comma, let's give it a function, parentheses, curly brackets. And now essentially in the body of this function, you just return true if the current user should have access to this private channel. You return false if you wouldn't want them to. So I'm just going to say any logged in user. As long as you're logged into our application, you should have access to the chat room channel, the chat channel. So I would just say if, parentheses, curly brackets, and the condition would just be if, and then call the auth function, look inside that, call the check function. So as long as that's true, then we would just return true. Otherwise, just return false. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. Whoops, be sure to have a semicolon after return false. We can go ahead and save. Whoops, also be sure to have a semicolon at the end of this entire line. Okay. And at this point, we're ready to connect the dots between client-side JavaScript and our live broadcasting feature. So essentially, let me explain how this is going to work.